You've probably never thought about this question seriously. What did people actually use before toilet paper existed? The real answer involves sticks, stones, communal sponges, and one very unfortunate Roman bathroom habit you're about to wish you never learned about. For most of human history, people used whatever nature provided. Leaves were used by Neanderthals as far back as 400,000 years ago, even though they weren't particularly effective. Beyond leaves, ancient people regularly used water, grass, stones, animal furs, and even seashells, depending on what their environment offered. In colder climates, the options changed completely. Vikings likely used handfuls of soft moss, while Arctic peoples like the Inuit used snow in winter and tundra moss in summer. In extremely cold regions, people even used scraps of wool or animal fur for a softer wipe. But the ancient Greeks took a much harsher approach. This is where it gets strange. The ancient Greeks used smooth stones called pessoi, along with broken ceramic pottery shards called ostraka. Here's the twist. Sometimes, as an act of vengeance, people would inscribe the name of an enemy onto the pottery shard before using it. Imagine being so petty that you wrote your enemy's name on a piece of pottery just to use it in the bathroom. And get this, those same inscribed shards were also used as ballots to vote people out of the city. Bathroom hygiene and political exile solved by the same broken piece of pottery.
If you thought that was bad, wait until you hear about the Romans. At Roman baths, people used something called a xylospongium, a sponge on a stick kept in a bucket of salty water. Here's the part that will ruin your day. These communal restrooms had no dividing walls, and the cleaning methods would never meet modern sanitation standards. That's right, one sponge, one bucket, shared by everyone using the bathroom that day. No privacy, no individual hygiene tool, just a community sponge passed from person to person. Modern toilet paper suddenly feels like a luxury, doesn't it?
While the Greeks and Romans were reusing sponges and pottery, China was already moving towards something more advanced. Archaeologists discovered 2,000-year-old wooden sticks along the old Silk Road called salaka, chechu, and chugi, spatula-shaped tools that people would wrap in cloth before use. In Japan, an 8th century device called a chugi was used the same way, a wooden stick used to clean both outside and inside.
But China didn't stop there. Since the Chinese had already invented papermaking, along with gunpowder, the compass, and block printing, it only made sense that they'd be the first to use paper for hygiene, too. The first documented use of toilet paper dates back to the 6th century, and by 1391, a Chinese emperor ordered the production of scented 2x3-foot sheets exclusively for his own family's use. Royalty got scented luxury paper. Everyone else got a stick.
Fast forward to medieval Europe, and things didn't improve much. People commonly used moss, sedge, hay, straw, and even pieces of tapestry. The situation was so absurd that a 16th century French novelist named François Rabelais wrote an entire satirical poem about all the different materials people tried using to wipe themselves. Meanwhile, many Europeans relied on bidets, wash basins kept beside the bed next to the chamber pot, as a mandatory second step in their bathroom routine. And in parts of North Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, people commonly wiped with their hand and rinsed with water, which is exactly why shaking hands with your left hand was considered deeply improper. Now let's talk about America, where the solution was sitting right in the cornfield. In rural agrarian communities, dried corn cobs became one of the most popular tools for cleanup. They were plentiful, efficient, and could even be turned on an axis for more thorough use. Surprisingly, they were also softer than you'd expect. When paper became more available, people simply switched to what was lying around the house. Outhouses across rural North America stocked corn cobs alongside the Sears Roebuck catalog well into the 1930s. But there was a problem. When Sears switched to glossy coated paper, rural households complained loudly because the shiny pages simply didn't work the same way. So when did toilet paper as we know it finally take over? Commercial toilet paper was introduced by Joseph Gaiety in 1857, but it didn't replace corn cobs and catalogs overnight. In fact, it took until the 1940s for commercial toilet paper to fully take over, once mass production finally made it cheaper than using old catalogs. Which means, for most of the 19th century, toilet paper existed, but people still chose corn cobs over it. So next time you reach for a roll of toilet paper without a second thought, remember, you're using a technology that's barely 80 years old in widespread use. Your ancestors used sticks, sponges, moss, snow, and corn cobs for thousands of years before that. If you want to know what other modern conveniences are actually newer than you think, hit subscribe, because history has a lot more surprises like this one waiting for you.